Live there, which is good. Hoping my internet holds up tonight. I've got a fair on the stream quality. Live on Twitter, live everywhere. Let's do it. G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the less knowns and the players who are going to bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Heff and tonight I am joined by Checkers. Welcome back to the podcast, mate.
Good to be back. I haven't seen you for a few weeks. So.
Yeah, it's been a while since Gather Round, really. I haven't seen each other since then. You've been pretty much flat out since that weekend. Since there. Footy season started for you. As well.
The Div 12 Resis are kicked off.
Yeah. Do you want to give us a rundown how the Div 12 Resis are going?
I just got a text just come through just then.
Yeah.
We had Channel 9 come out and film the Div 12 Resis at training last week.
Yeah.
Should be on air Wednesday morning on the Today Show. That was the text I just got just then as I was...
Oh, sweet.
Sorry.
That's all right.
But pretty much we play in the lowest ranked Div in like South Australia.
Yeah.
In the D grade.
What is the actual div? It's not 20. It's not 12, is it?
C7.
C7, yeah.
But our housemate came along to the first game and he has his own TikTok account and was filming some stuff. And I didn't even know any of it went up. Like I didn't check my phone Saturday night. Usually have like a gig and stuff. So after footy, I didn't check anything. Sunday, I wake up. I think I went to the footy on Sunday and then I get a text from my mum asking who my girlfriend is because the original video that blew up was an audio of it was a ripped audio for another person's video of a girl talking about her boyfriend.
I thought it was specifically for yours.
No.
Yeah, right. No, I didn't know that.
It was a TikTok that blew up like 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah. Because she was more of a famous TikToker.
Yeah, she's like from Sydney. Piper Ross, if you want to look her up.
Yeah, my partner actually knew who it was. I didn't know idea.
Yeah. So he ripped the audio off. That blew up. I think it got 3 million plays or something. So yeah.
Ridiculous.
Finding new angles to hit TikTok with. It's not kicking torps or gather around. It's me playing really low level of football.
You've been posting your fantasy scores up there as well, I see.
Yeah, well, he started taking stats.
Yeah.
He's now we've got all these kids coming out to our games. Like we had a crowd of kids there on the weekend, all like filming us and taking stats and bringing out chalky milk, and it was getting a bit out of hand, but it's all for a good laugh. So happy if anyone's taking the piss out of me.
Where the Div 12 Resis playing this weekend?
Playing at Port Districts.
Yeah, okay.
We haven't won a game all year.
Yeah.
And Port Districts haven't won a game all year.
Oh, showdown.
Whoever loses is guaranteed the wooden spoon pretty much.
Yeah.
So the rest of the comp's really strong.
One of my workmates actually plays for, who did you play on the weekend?
Golden Grove
plays for them. So
yeah.
I think he's a captain number 3 with the sleeves, I reckon. So.
Yeah, I reckon he had a field day.
I don't reckon he did, but that's all right. Anyways, this podcast is brought to you by Game Day Squad. Create, coach, and compete in fantasy football. If you haven't played it before, you open digital packs to get your cards instead of picking players from a player pool. Each card has different value and a different multiplier. So, some of the lower level cards or lower level players can be worth more because they've got, a 1.5 multiplier on them or something like that. So you get free cards each week for logging in, and you can also buy players from the transfer market. You can also buy packs as well to get more players. Best part about it, it's a dynasty format, so it's really relevant for the Keep League because last week I got a gold Harry Sheasel.
That'd be worth a mint.
I am pretty happy with that. Well, I bought a silver one a few weeks ago for $50. It cost me $50 to get a silver one. So silvers, it depends on the kind of league you're playing. They can be a bit more valuable depending on what you do, but I think anything Sheasel at the moment is going pretty hot. So yeah, pretty happy with that one. Create, coach, and compete in fantasy footy with Game Day Squad. Head to gamedaysquad.com.au to check it all out. All right, Checkers, you ready to get in the show?
Yeah, let's get it underway.
All right, brief format a bit this week. We're just going to talk about the most relevant names of the week, but there is quite the list here. Members also sent in some talking points as well, so we'll get stuck into those later on in the show as well as some listener questions later on. All right, first one of the week is Liam Shields. He had 128 points. Playing more inside the last few weeks, he actually had 56% of the centre bounce attendances. I guess, does this surprise you, and has he surprised you this season?
I mean, Clarko loves him. We knew that Clarko loved him. That's why they brought him to the club. But the 56 CBA is it's an interesting stat because that game had like barely any CBAs. I don't know if I'm trying to think of the scoreline. I'll look it up. It was like, 12 CBAs in total for the match.
Yeah, it was pretty low.
It's like 4 goals, 10 plays, 8 goals, 16.
Yeah.
So, like, really, was his CBAs that inflated?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Ben Cunnington got subbed out as well. So, I mean,
Tom
Cunnington
Powell
probably
was missing as well.
Yeah, probably takes some of those CBAs. But, yeah, look, in the week where they dropped Turner and Aaron Hall and they put the 2 kids in and they look like they're going to start, they put Bergman and Blake Drury in. And it's sort of that general consensus that maybe North Melbourne are going to start playing all the kids, filtering out all the oldies. But I feel like Liam Shields is still Clarko's pet. Yeah. And probably doesn't get filtered out. He'll stick around for the rest of the year. So in a keeper league format, for someone who's very low cost, low ownership, that could be pretty handy to have.
Yeah, because like regardless of the CBAs, 128 points, you can't argue with
he's
it.
still
Really.
playing pretty good footy. You have that concern of like anyone over 30 is probably at risk of getting dropped. At North Melbourne, but Liam Shields is like, Clarko's not going to drop Liam Shields. That's
he keeps
criminal.
getting the job done. That's as well. Like he's like just such a senior player for him. He just they look to him and stuff like that. Do you reckon it continue, or do you reckon this is just like a bit of a patch they're going through?
I don't think the 128 on the weekend. I don't think that continues, but I think he continues enough to warrant like having him in your side almost as like a bench option.
Even because he's a forward, so it's
just a concern would be if at one point when Clarko does decide to chop him out the side and play some more kids, and that that could be the hassle. But for now, they dropped Hall, they dropped Turner, so he kept his spot. And he'd be the oldest player on their list, wouldn't he? So
with James Elms says, sorry, Jags, I'm just reading the chat here from the live stream. James Elms saying Div 12 best and fairest, a huge get for the pod. So is that right? You're on track for best and fairest, you reckon?
Not the fairest, but not the best. No,
you want a BNF in the Div 12 races before?
I think the best I've finished is like 5th in the BNF.
Surely just with all the content, you're getting the votes anyway at the moment.
Hopefully the umpires. The umpires knew who we were before we went out on the weekend.
I've finished runner-up in a C2 medal one year, and I had a dog shit season, but because I was the captain, I swear they just gave 3 votes to the captain each week.
There's a few theories I've heard getting around the lower leagues, like make sure you go shake the umpire's hand.
Yeah, usually helps.
I mean, I wear a long sleeve and I have the haircut that stands out, so when you're thinking back at the end of the game, like maybe that might help, but I don't think it's enough. If anything, I annoy the umpires more than anything, but whinging all day about.
This one year, I don't even think I finished top 10 in the club best and fairest, but finished second in the league best and fairest. So,
Did you get a medal for that? Or?
No, I get nothing.
Nothing. Just your name put up on the. Do they put it up on the amateurs page every year when they did the medal counts?
They actually, I would have got mentioned
and
there.
Everyone tags their mates 1,000 times when they finish like top 10. It's hilarious. You get ripped if you finish like top 10 in
probably
a lower league.
Fine as well. Yeah. Anyways, we can move on. It's enough Div 12 Resi's
back
content.
Back to AFL content. No one cares about the AFL one. It's all about
everyone
Div 12.
cares about Div 12 Resis, that's for sure. Liam Stocker, being Saints man, 127 points, just mopped up across halfback. There's that combination of playing against North and just wayward kicking going forward, plus the Saints game style where they kind of chip around a fair bit as well to kind of move it forward. It's a very fantasy friendly game style. Is he capable of more of these type scores throughout the season, or do you reckon this is just like a one-off?
It was like a bit of that. So we just said before like about all the behinds that were kicked. Was it 26 behinds kicked in that game for a game that was under cover with no wind or rain? You're talking about the no wind or rain. It's very easy to do that chip kick style off halfback as well. If there's all those kick-outs that Saints would have had, all that possession footy they would have had in that back half, sort of all the behinds kicked. I'm thinking Wilkie scored pretty well. Wanganeen Malira scored pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, all those types that sort of would play chip kick footy got a fair bit of the ball.
Saints defenders in general, though, just score well. So
he had 16 marks, and I'd probably take a fair bet that most of them were uncontested.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
127 overinflated, but, he's playing good footy. We knew he was capable of playing good footy as well.
Yeah.
Carlton listed him, and it was probably a bit stiff.
Yeah, definitely.
But he's having a lot of fun at St Kilda. I mean, probably, I'd say more like an 80, 85. But
still, I'll take that.
That's very capable.
Where he probably got drafted
He's
in most
confidence.
leagues.
Remember, he hasn't played a lot of senior footy, a lot of AFL footy.
Yeah.
Probably played like bucket load of VFL footy.
I'll never forget that time where he was playing at Carlton and he tried to kick it across the face and actually kicked the goal for the other team.
But he'll get confidence. As any rookie, when they get to that 20, 30, 50, 70 game stage, you see their averages start to increase a little bit. So
yeah. Anyway, Stock is a pretty handy one for your keeper. Like I said, where you drafted him this year was way down. So yeah, you can't really complain too much with what you're getting from him. Don't expect these huge scores, but the potential's there for scoring. That's definitely there. Luke Jackson was the next one on the list. 117 points. He was just way more dominant this week. When he's not rucking, I guess he's he's playing forward. But this time, I swear he was at a couple centre bounces as not the ruckman. He was like a midfielder.
He didn't actually go in the ruck a lot.
Yeah.
I think he only had 3 hit-outs, but he was like... Tabner's out at the moment injured, but Luke Jackson was so dominant as the full forward or as the key forward.
Because he was actually taking grabs this week.
He's so mobile. He was... He kicked 2 goals, 1, and I reckon he kicked one that fell just short, and he might have kicked one out of bounds.
Yeah.
So he could have kicked it like a bag of 4, which would have been very handy.
Yeah.
But he's obviously had like the media on his back a bit about being like a high cost trade that Freo sort of had to buy.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of cash, send some draft picks away, and he hasn't maybe performed what they wanted. But we know that Luke Jackson, like young ruckman, he is well ahead of where all other ruckmen of his age have been. Like he's won a flag and compare him to a lot of the other young ruckmen just sitting in the 2s on everyone else's list, just waiting to develop.
Like most rucks aren't playing until they're 24, 25.
Yeah, this bloke's dishing up, grand final winning performances. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you can't complain. I think I've got him in a few drafts, and I'll just keep him on field because I know that these games where he does get a hold of the game aren't going to be every week, but they're every 2 to 3 weeks. So, you take the good with the bad sometimes. So you might get a 50, 60 some weeks, but you're going to get 120 the other. And as he gets older and more improved, that's going to level out a little bit more.
Do you think there is a world where him and Sean Darcy actually score, like they're both like 90 plus average guys, or does one have to make way for the other? Like, are we going to be waiting before?
There's the Tabner factor. I mean, Nat Fyfe came in the last quarter and Jackson got pushed up the ground.
Yeah.
I definitely noticed that a bit more. He was playing like more as a key forward.
But I mean more so over like the next 2, 3, 4 years.
I don't think they coexist as like we've seen it with Max Gawn and Brodie Grundy. They play one definitely plays forward, one definitely plays in the ruck.
Yeah,
and I think Jackson's a much better forward at the moment than he is.
It's going to be a yo-yo own for both of them.
But I feel like they St Kilda are missing a key forward. Like Tabner is the GOAT for them. He's the guy they want to be playing at full forward.
Yeah,
they're sort of experimenting with Fyfe. They're experimenting with like Sam Sturt and is it Jai
Amos?
Amos. I always get his name wrong. I say Amos or Amos.
Yeah.
But, they're still in development stages. So if you can have Luke Jackson who can out-body people and take clunks.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's definitely a talent. It's just whether the fantasy scoring is going to be consistent.
I think he's shown potential, though, to score. Like, he didn't actually ruck that much on the weekend. He's shown potential to score well as just a key forward.
Yeah. Needs to, I don't know, just needs to develop that part of that key forward part of his game to be a bit more consistent.
Hitting the scoreboard a bit more consistently.
Freo winning probably helps as well. Absolute smashing, I reckon. Anyway, Dom Sheed returned this week after, what was his voice box or something was wrong with him? Or wasn't there something weird wrong with him? Yeah, neck. Had 111 points. Basically, this is what we all wanted, the start of the season. Now that he's back and he's, straight back in the midfield, do you reckon there's some scope there for him to just continue scoring well for the rest of the season?
It's hard I wouldn't be that hot on many West Coast players, especially West Coast midfielders, because of just how they're sitting on the ladder. I mean, it's very hard to score over 100 consistently when you're losing. Like, Tim Kelly's getting close, but he's still probably not justifiable as like a premium
No one's getting those huge high ceiling scores, are they?
And then other weeks you see, like, obviously all the players that they've got a massive injury list and players coming in and out of the side so much over the next probably like 12 weeks.
Yep.
If you're looking in for the rest of the year, like, I don't know when people are due back on the injury list, but say like a Shuey comes back in for 2 weeks and it just shifts his role a little bit, or whoever comes back in.
Well, I've noticed we have seen Gaff scoring pretty well the last few weeks, playing more of an inside role, and he dropped right down this week. So maybe there's only room for one of them or something like that. And if Shuey comes back in, that could ruin him again, but Shuey, I reckon.
Shuey might not be the one. There's heaps of players on the injury list. Like, we know there's only like 26 fit. So anyone on that injury list can come shift back in and it shifts the role. So it's a dangerous game to be playing. Yeah.
No, fair enough. I wouldn't trust Dom Sheed just yet, but if he puts up another good couple of performances, he might sway me. That's all. Will Powell, 105 points. He was the looser man in defence. Like, they play a pretty loose game style anyway, and the way they chip around, they get so many scores at Gold Coast. But yeah, just kept popping into holes, taking some intercept marks, and then got involved on that chip around too. I reckon he's probably too good for the podcast time.
I think it's probably there. In the like classic realms, the hot name of the week or the last 2 weeks been like Rory Atkins.
Yeah.
And I feel like Powell's just shifted to the background because he's come back in. I think he scored a ton last week as well.
Yeah.
When Atkins went big. And he's done it again. And I feel like Atkins has got that job security issues where it's like, he's done, a couple good things, but he's done a couple bad things, and they've got Weller to come back in. But I feel like Powell's job security is like locked. Like, he's the future for Gold Coast. So like, you can muck around with a Rory Atkins who can might be in the team this week, might not be in the team next, but I feel like Power's going to be there every chance he's fit.
Yeah, he's actually a player I probably could get to as well. Good
Yeah,
thinking.
he's not that expensive in Classic.
650, yeah.
And they are playing that loose footy in down back, Darcy McPherson.
And it's a good
Rory
buy.
Atkins.
But yeah, we shouldn't talk about Classic on this podcast, otherwise people will complain, but I do like your train of thought there.
He's just got the job security compared to everyone's talking about Atkins,
Yeah.
McPherson.
Atkins could
Weller
go
will
this
come
week.
back in the mix possibly this week or next.
Yeah.
But Will Power's that one who just slides. He doesn't get much art. He doesn't get much like airtime.
Yeah, he seems to be like their preferred go-to guy out of defence anyway. So, or the one he's most likely, the likely candidate to rack up some, good numbers. So, yeah, I like him. Jermaine Jones had 102 points. He's been awesome. When he gets that halfback role, which has been consistent this year, it's kind of switched around last year. But when he gets a halfback role, which he's got permanently this year by the looks, he's awesome. He's only gone under 60 once now, and he usually gets you a 70 most weeks at the bare minimum, but then pops up with a few decent scores here and there. I reckon if he was in a better side, he'd be a much more reliable scorer as he develops.
I feel like he suits the West Coast game model very well. They do have the mainstays like Shannon Hearn, Witherden, all that deep in defence, and he just plays that very good role off half back and down the wing. So,
do you reckon there's scope for more consistent scoring in the future?
I just feel like he's suiting the role right now at the time that they've got with all the play. They've got a pretty locked down back like they have had for probably 5-6 years now with Barras.
And we're probably going to see Hearn go at the end of the year. Witherden is always feel like he's on borrowed time.
It's the same as Jaden Hunt and Jermaine Jones. They're probably living their best life right now in that team. They're playing their best footy because their roles opened up for them to allow it. I feel like in any other team or whatever, they probably wouldn't score as well as they are.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
They're playing in a bottom side. They're getting a lot of the ball in that back 50.
Yeah, fair, cool. Moving on to Willem Drew, 102 points. So the roller coaster with him continues this week. He was back into the CBA mix. He goes in, out, in and out. The thing is, when he's not in the CBA mix, he's generally starting on the wing and kind of just doing the same thing anyway. So I don't know if the CBA numbers are that effective with him. I think it's probably just more so how the game pans out, whether it's a contested game or whether it's a free-flowing game.
I remember the last time I was on this podcast was after Showdown, and he was brought up as well.
Yeah.
And that was a contested game, and he scored well in the midfield because Showdown obviously hard battle, a lot of contested footy, a lot of ball ups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he played in a heap of CBA time then as well. And you think about Essendon with their midfield with Stringer, Parrish, Merritt. It's pretty strong midfield.
Yeah. Although the week before was a tight, pretty contested game with St Kilda, but there was a lot of...
St Kilda just give up a lot sometimes. They can be very unaccountable at times.
Yeah, he just didn't... I don't think he scored that well last week, that's all. But yeah, when he gets in the CBA mix, there seems to be a correlation. I don't know. Looking at it, I just think there's more to it. Tough to pick when he goes well, but he's worth owning for what he can put up at the moment. Given that he's got a pretty lockdown midfield role, regardless, either on the wing or on the inside, that's where he's going to be. So yeah, you just got to ride the good with the bad, I think. Jesse Hogan had 100 points or 101 points. He got on the lead for most of the day and just provided an option which just resulted in him taking 9 marks, really. Kicked a couple goals. I don't think he's ever going to be that consistent, enough to be really, relying on him too much, but he's averaging 73 in an up and down kind of year. I don't mind him as an option just to help you out.
I've actually got him in probably, I reckon, almost all of my draft sides.
Yeah.
Because he just gets so undervalued when you do drafts.
Yeah.
There's a few players like this, but he just consistently scores in that 60 to 80 range.
Yeah.
He doesn't have massive games 140 plus. He doesn't often have a stinker of below 40 either. He's just got that very consistent draft model. Because he usually is pretty good for 2 goals. Usually gets up the ground if he's having a quiet day on the scoreboard as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, very similar to a Tim Membry type, Jesse Hogan.
Yeah.
Just consistent forward model.
Yeah.
Taylor Walker's probably in a similar mould.
Yeah. Most key forwards are around that kind of 70 to, most good key forwards, around that 70 to 75 average anyway. He's just one of them, you know what I mean? And, he's worth owning because he can do this kind of stuff every now and then. Now, Hayden McLean was an interesting one. Now, Peter Laddam's just, I don't know what.
He hurt his shoulder at the very first ruck contest.
Because I did not see the start of the game.
I don't know if it was a collarbone or a shoulder or neck, but he went, the first ruck contest, he hit the floor so hard.
Oh, that makes so much more sense. Yeah,
he played out the game, but he only played 50% time on ground, I reckon.
Yeah.
I didn't know the actual. I looked up the actual stat this morning.
Yeah. He did have a 60-40 CBA split.
Yeah, he played out the game because they were playing Collingwood. I think they're trying to expose the Billy Frampton, Mason Cox factor.
Okay, cool.
But there's pretty high rumour that he probably won't play this week. That's what I've been reading today. And they're talking about who's the guy that's on everyone's bench in Classic.
Tom Hickey. Oh, no, McAndrew.
Potentially McAndrew coming in.
Because Hickey was back last week, but I just don't know if that's the way Sydney want to go, is back to Hickey. Well, sorry, Hickey's been back for a couple of weeks, but he had his first 100-plus score in the VFL this week. So,
well, that could be the goal as well. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he played at the game, to be honest, as a ruckman getting a sore shoulder.
Yeah.
It's a pretty hard gig. But
that makes heaps of sense. I was just wondering why McLean
might have got the jab or something.
Yeah. I thought maybe it was like
he must have only ruck, because maybe I don't think McLean's strong enough to play a whole game in the ruck.
I thought it was maybe just prepping for Tom Hickey's return. They were going to bump him up a little bit and bump Hickey down a little bit, but maybe, now that you say that he got injured in the first bounce, that makes heaps more sense.
Because if they played like a 60-40 split, I mean, and Ladham's only played about 50% time on ground, then you'd assume he pretty much just went on rucked and came off. Yeah. No, that makes more sense. I wish I knew he copped that injury. Anyway, Connor Nash had 97 points. My question to you is he starting to become fieldable? He does the accountable jobs in the middle, but then he still had 8 clearances and 12 contested possessions. And he's actually averaging 90 in the past 4 weeks, which kind of coincides with Finn McGuinness going out of the side. I know they played kind of separate roles, like one was more in the midfield, one was more tagging that halfback flanker. But since he's gone to stop doing his jobs, I feel like Nash has just been go-to in the midfield. He's actual a clearance beast. It's weird. It's so weird. If you told anyone probably August last year that Hawthorn, who had Tom Mitchell, Jaeger O'Meara, Warple, and who was out, Josh Ward in their midfield mix, and you told them next year you wouldn't have two of those the two best midfielders in their team, and they'd have Connor Nash as their main clearance player, your mind would be blown. But no, he's actual if you watch their games, he's a freak. Bit like Horn France is another one who's just doing bulk clearance work, but he's just so good at just bursting out of packs like that. Strength, he's very strong, and then very, very quick on the foot. So
there was a passage of play where he linked up 3 times through the middle. Looked like a genuine A-grade midfielder.
He got pace,
it was nuts. I reckon he's starting to become fieldable. I've got him on my bench. I might even bring him on.
They're definitely using him for that. I feel like Mitchell's worked out that he's a good clearance player, and sometimes when you need to play like that. Warple's used to be okay at it, but I mean that pace, that burn of pace is
a bit quicker, isn't he?
Something everyone's looking for in their midfield at the moment.
We'll move on. Speaking of the same kind of player, Jason Horne-Francis, really 96 points. He's just growing each week, just a contested beast. His traffic work's getting better. He got caught a few times in this game, but he's getting better at just he's always been good, but he just shrugs players off and kind of finds holes where he probably shouldn't as well. I'm confident he'll be a good fantasy scorer going forward. Maybe next year he might have to build it up a little bit more, but what do you think?
Yeah, well, that's one that everyone gives him a lot of grief because his stats aren't that great, but I reckon he's probably the best clearance player at Port Adelaide, and then Hinkley definitely knows that. I think that's why they've been playing him as the clearance player all year. Yeah. Anytime a game gets tight, Horne-Francis is in the midfield mix. Anytime, he's always there at the start of the game, and then if the game's tight at the end, which they've had a couple of tight games the last few weeks, Horne-Francis is always thrown into that midfield mix. They need to win the clearance. Yeah. He's got a bit of a Dusty Martin about him, where he would do the fend off a few times, and it's that strength, grabbing the ball, and then the quick turn of foot that he's got is crazy watching it. And you were at the game the weekend, I'm pretty sure I saw you.
I was there.
Yeah, I was there. It was crazy, and people are starting to catch on and gets people really excited, that type of footy. So
it's awesome to see, and just good to see
accumulation he's got to build up. But
exactly.
If you win in heaps of clearances, that'll come.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so no, I have faith going forward.
Dusty wasn't the biggest accumulator as well, and he probably copped a lot of knocks through his fantasy career about probably only being an 85 to 95 average. You want a Brownlow and only average 95.
And Dusty's only not been fantasy relevant because he's just more forward now, and I just don't see that ever happening with Francis. He's a midfielder first, forward second type thing.
They have used him a full forward a few times, but definitely with all the keys they've got to put out, I don't think that'll be too often. And you're going to be playing your number 1 draft pick, or a player that was number 1 draft pick in the midfield going forward, I think. Connor Iden had 96 points, just in defence. He was just good when the ball came to ground. And then there was lots of chipping around. When it's playing against Bulldogs, it just kind of brings out the best in defenders, I think. Bulldogs are very good at turning over that ball up forward.
Yeah, there are 10 marks in there, so that sums it up really. Just not consistent enough for me, but it was a good score. Bailey Williams, he had 94 points. Up against a lesser ruck combo of Ben Miller and Samson Ryan.
He's had a few good scores lately. Actually, the trick with Bailey Miller last few weeks, I'm trying to think what day they played on. This week they played on Saturday. Oh, what happened? Oh, I have him as emergency.
Yeah.
So I've got him stashed on the bench in 2 draft leagues, I reckon. And the last 2 weeks just turned up last week maybe, or might have scored like 105, I reckon.
Yeah.
And the last 2 weeks I've had him as emergency and then been able to just put like attrition Zeri on field and copy his emergency score. And I'm so happy with it. It's been like 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I mean, he's playing sole ruck or like 90% of the ruck work most of the time. Like, he hasn't got anyone else chopping out for him, so he's getting a lot of time on ground. When he plays the big guys, like when he plays like an English or a Max Gorn, he's obviously going to get towed.
Yeah.
But when he plays the lesser guys, like, you know, when West Coast play Port and he comes against Teakle, when they play against Miller and Samson Ryan, he's getting a fair chop out.
Yeah. I reckon he's the short-term number one for West Coast. Like, as long as Nick Nui stays out, he's probably the guy for the next 2 or 3 years. I know Callum Jamison they do rate, and I think he's back playing in the Waffle at the moment. So he might come in eventually. But yeah, I think for the time being, he's the number one. Just keep your eye on Harry Barnett in the Waffle. First year ruckman, like, he's going to take 2 or 3, 4 years to develop, but apparently he's very, very good. But yeah, probably just needs to put on the size to play AFL.
I mean, for the rest of the year, like Bailey Williams probably wouldn't. I mean, now that he's scored back-to-back scores, would be in a fair few teams. But if he's floating on any waivers, I'd stash him on your bench. You know, he's got really good job security.
Yeah, exactly. Not the worst ruck option out there. Jason Johannesson, I'm going to make him too good for the podcast. Probably back for the first time in about 4 years, I reckon. Good to see just the JJ of old back. Just plays a nice fantasy-friendly role. Not too much more to say about that one. Dylan Williams had 92 points, 24 disposals, and 17 of them were by foot, so not the worst kind of kick to handball ratio there. Also had a couple of kick-ins. I think he had a quarter reports kick-ins, but they just weren't that many. That's all. Farrell was to come back in. Do you think he holds his spot, and can he continue scoring like this?
I think he holds his spot.
Yeah.
He's poor fans love him now because he took that big mark against Sydney.
Yeah.
I think he got dropped the next week to be the sub, and they're a bit filthy about it because he's just won us the game, or he's been very influential in that game.
Yeah.
And it's been a bit stiff to like bring a young kid in and then drop him for for doing good.
He's been good because, like, I guess he's reinvented himself as a footballer, you know, originally being a small forward.
He was drafted to be like Robbie Gray's replacement. I'm just looking at his efficiency, 88% efficiency. Yeah. No, I put him in my, bringing up Classic again, but obviously everyone jumped on Rory Atkins and Fiorini this week.
Yeah.
And I messaged Louis on Friday just with a Atkins and Fiorini, yes or no, and he said no. Yeah. So then I had him in my team. I swapped him out, and I picked up Dill Williams. Yeah. And I mean, it was like the Atkins or Williams trade-off, and Williams ended up scoring more, and I was pretty happy with that. Yeah, sweet. I mean, on the Saturday, I was pretty upset. I was like, geez, Atkins looks like he scored well. But then I don't think many people would have brought in Dill Williams this week, so I was pretty happy.
You played him on field, did you?
I had him on the bench, unfortunately. Okay. I just didn't think he'd scored 92. That was great. But no, I'm pretty happy with that pickup just because, like, his role, like, he's kicking.
Yeah. If he
kicks
holds,
lots.
then he's going to be fine. Yeah.
It gives job security, I think.
Yeah.
It's just who goes out for Farrell. I mean, Bonner played on the week and he played pretty well as well.
Yeah.
But Bonner's always in and out of the side.
Yeah, so. Bonner's playing more up on the wing, though, a bit more. So he's kind of replacing Dersmar. So I don't know. Yeah. If he holds, I reckon he's got some potential, that's for sure. Oscar Allen had 92 points. I've wrote him off, but he's actually okay. For a key forward anyway, like 4 goals in this game. I think with him, and it's kind of like really any key forward, like we're talking about Hogan before and stuff like that, you just got to ride the lows because I think he'll get better when West Coast get better. Darling's not offering a lot right now.
Darling, you can pretty much ride off.
Yeah. So I think he's the kind of main guy going forward. He'll be the one that they channel all their play through.
The one issue with Allen is so injury prone. Like, he just throws himself in so many contests. Yeah. He has, like, when you watch him live and he gets on a bit of a roll, I remember he kicked like 3 goals in a quarter or something like that, and I was like, hell, this guy's like going to be one of the best key forwards in the comp. And then the next quarter he threw himself for like 4 contested grabs and just went off injured. I was like, why'd you do that?
Yeah. You're right. It's actually finally good to see him get a bit of a run with not being injured.
If he gets a bit of a run without getting injured, he could be a freak. Like, could kick like a 50-goal year in a bottom side, which is pretty handy. Like, that's equivalent of like a 70, 80-goal year at Carlton or Collingwood.
Definitely. Well, worth owning if he's out there on your waiver pool. Just, ride the highs with the lows. Cooper Sharman back into the side for the first time this week, I think. I think you've been playing, what's his name? Community?
He comes back this week as well from
suspension. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Because, I mean, Max King's also on the radar.
And Membry wasn't playing, I reckon, when Community was playing. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, you got Membry back in the mix. You got Max King back in the mix. And now Sharman's up there as well.
Well, talk to us about Sharman. Is there any fantasy potential there?
I don't think so. I mean, I'd still say Membry had an off week this week, and if King comes back in, you're going to have to play Membry and King. Like, that's just the preferred combo at St Kilda.
Yeah.
But I think he played a very Tim Membry style game.
Yeah. Nah, I agree with that one. Just the young key forward is probably not yet. That's what I'm going to say with him. Has popped up here and there with good scores, but yeah, just needs a bit more time. Will need a bit more time anyway. Isaac Quainer, I won't talk about this one too long, but 89 points. Just given his halfback role, he can put up some good numbers from time to time. Just depends on the game, but that was his best score of the year. So 89 points. He need to back it up before I'm interested. It's good having you on this week and not Dos, because we can talk about Braden Free and it won't take half an hour. But yeah, 89 points. Went to a few more CBAs this week, but still, did some time out on the wing as well. Kind of in a lot of like the kind of get out of defence kind of play and stuff like that. He was kind of the kind of guy up in the midfield, get the next kick and things like that. Brandon Ellis was on the other wing who didn't really do anything all day except for maybe kick a goal later on in the game. Do you think Fiorini's spot's safe for now?
Well, I mean, David Swallow took most of the CBAs that Miller would have normally had. I mean, Rao and Anderson were already in the mix, most of the midfielders, but Swallow probably played.
He's the one that went up.
He went up. He had the most CBAs for any of their midfielders.
Yeah.
I mean, Fiorini just played his usual wing role that he normally plays, and that's what did turn me off when I was speaking to Louis about it. Was like, I was probably more hot on Rory Atkins out of those two Suns players everyone was chatting about over the week. Because I feel like Fiorini probably isn't the most favoured midfielder. He's not, he's not Took Miller, and to play like Took Miller, I mean, I wouldn't have said David Swallow, I would have said someone else, but yeah.
It felt like as well, just kind of on the topic, that Atkins played more of a defender role this week, where I didn't see a lot of last week, but when I did see him, he was on the wing a lot the week before, and it was more like now back, he was taking kick-ins and stuff.
It was a handy matchup for Atkins as well with Melbourne, because like they just turned the ball over, like they had 12 behinds.
Atkins
fair bit of ball down back.
8 turnovers, I think.
He did, which is why his spot's probably on the line. But Fiorini, I think why Took's out, his spot's probably safe, but I don't think his scoring is going to be as crazy as everyone thinks it's going to be. I think that 80, maybe a 70. I don't think he's going to be dishing up 100 pluses.
He's just the kind of guy that can get a lot of cheap ball though, and he might pop up here, and he's probably 80s like where his floor is going to be.
Depending like who Gold Coast are playing. I mean, they've got West Coast this week. That's going to be very handy.
Yeah.
I haven't really looked at their matchups. Brisbane Lions next week won't be as handy.
Yeah.
So, you might get a win this week when they play West Coast, but you're going to be, I'd be worried about that Brisbane matchup.
Yeah, I think after that, it opens up a bit more, but tough couple of weeks for Gold Coast, that's for sure. Justin McInerney back into the side this week after being dropped last week, so he really responded, scored 89 points. He's just a player that needs to back it up. We've been talking about this guy for years, how much potential he has, but just cannot deliver. I guess being that outside winger type, it's harder for him to score in the Sydney system. But with Dylan Stevens out, like Sydney rotate a lot of players on their wings, and I think they might just be dialing it in a little bit and just playing a few different players. I think Errol Golden was on the wing a bit more.
So
this week
Golden
as well.
didn't see a single CBA. He was a flat halfback wing.
Yeah.
So do you think maybe that game just suited the wings and the halfbacks?
Maybe,
like the CBAs.
Well, if he's scored
161 without seeing a CBA.
Yeah, probably did.
McInerney scoring 89 on the wing as well. Probably might have just been a game that suited the wingers.
If McInerney backs it up, I'll look at him a bit closer. But he just hasn't shown enough.
Probably just need to see one more
sort
of like game where Goulden and McInerney do rip it up again, because so the wings aren't always like Goulden hasn't had the greatest run this year. He's been a bit up and down.
Yeah, correct. Mark Pitnet, 87 points. He's performing well with De Koning out of the side. I was trying to figure out this morning why De Koning didn't play VFL on the weekend. He got a concussion the week before, so that's why he didn't play.
So there's some rumour getting around Twitter that he went out on the piss or something like that.
Oh, geez, I don't know. That could be
some rumour he didn't show up to the... I don't know. It might have been fake. I won't go too in depth into it, but I did see some rumour about how he probably should have played, but they left him out for some reason.
That's the first I heard of it. I got told concussion is why I missed. But anyway, so Mark Pitnet's rucking solo at the moment. And McInerney's kind of like a tough ruckman to ruck against. He often negates opposing ruckman. So to score an 87 to back up, I think it was his 91 the week before. Pitnet's just becoming an option if he's available on waiver wires.
Tore up the hitouts. 48 hitouts versus 29, which is very good for McInerney. Like, he never gives up that many hitouts.
Yeah. Well, apparently Pitnet last year was one of the better hit-out to advantage.
This year is as a stat last week.
Yeah.
He isn't averaging the most hit outs. Like, you think of guys that are averaging massive hit out numbers like Sean Darcy and stuff. Yeah. but he's averaging 20 hitouts to advantage a week, which is crazy because I think
huge.
he's only averaging like 28 hitouts a game.
Yeah, that's it. So I think they kind of prefer him in there.
He's definitely, well, they reckon he's the best tap ruckman in the comp because of that stat.
Well, there you go.
He didn't have a lot of the ball. I can't believe he had 48 hitouts against McInerney. I didn't know that stat.
Yeah, often very
That's
hard
massive.
to ruck against. Yeah. Anyway, floating around waiver wise, pick up Pitnet. He's going okay at the moment. Just watch when De Koning comes back. We talked about him briefly before, but against Bailey Williams. But Ben Miller had 87 points. That's just a good showing from an unexperienced ruckman.
What was the ruck split in that game?
Ruckman.
Because I mean, when I watched half of that game, and Samson Ryan played a lot of ruck time.
It was pretty split, I reckon, in terms of CBAs.
I feel like Samson Ryan's their better ruck option at the moment.
Yeah, I didn't see the game.
He's more
honestly.
mobile.
But good score. But yeah, again, it's only up against Bailey Williams, so it's probably not the toughest opponent.
How far is an
either.
anchor away as well?
Yeah, true.
4 or 6 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, should get a bit of a showing in between now and then. But yeah. Speaking of ruckman, Billy Frampton, 86 points. We'll mention that Mason Cox did come back into the side, but
Frampton was still their best ruck.
Yeah, Frampton was fine. He actually had the 60% of the CBAs, so
He's looking good.
And he won the hitouts too.
I mean, he was rucking as Hayden McLean most of the game, but the last 2 weeks have been looking good.
Yeah, he's fine. With Cox in there, I think that might hinder him going forward, though. Like, it might have been circumstantial now that we know that. Well, now that I know that Laddams was out or injured for most of the game, it might be just a bit of a bump. Like, maybe don't expect to see this with Cox going forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say so. I feel like maybe once Laddams went down, they sort of might have taken advantage of the McLean factor and just been like, well, Frampton, you can just cut it up there rather than burn out Mason Cox in his first game back from a pretty bad injury.
Him up forward a bit more.
When Cameron comes back, it's going to be interesting to see if Frampton does any ruck work because he's actually been like rucking very well. Like I thought.
Yeah, Frampton's been fine.
I watched him. I'm trying to think which game I went to the other week where they played. It was Collingwood versus Adelaide.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he did a very good job on Rob. So
yeah, fantasy wise, I don't love him, but I think just as a player, like he's just playing.
That role is going to be handy to have as
definitely.
someone who's a defender.
Yeah.
If they get a ruck split,
I just can't believe he's gone from Port reject, then to Crows reject,
gone from a
premiership team,
from a ruckman to playing forward to playing key back, now back into the ruck. He's just been a real journeyman. Played at 3 clubs and probably hasn't only played like 30 AFL games.
I wasn't there on the night, but a few of my mates just ran into him after the game and hung out with him. Apparently, a real good dude as well. So yeah. Blake Hardwick, I just got to apologise to him. I gave him a tip of the cap last week because I just said he'd never be consistent enough. Well, but the thing is he has. It was a dumb call. Apologise to Blake Hardwick. His role is good enough for him to score well from time to time. It's just that, he can get caught in some defensive roles that does stifle him from time to time. Even in this game.
I think we've said this before, but he gets like swung around a bit. A swing man.
Yeah, definitely. So that can affect him too. Although when they were swinging him forward earlier on the season, he was scoring better. So I don't really know. But it feels like he's just back to that halfback role where he's not defending, takes a few kick-outs, all that sort of stuff. So just apologies to Blake Hardwick for saying you're just a tip of the cap. Ollie Hollands had 86 points. He's starting to find more of the footy. He did have 6 turnovers, but I think he's just safe at the moment just because there aren't many outside options at Carlton. Do you think he's ever going to be a ceiling player? I think we have this debate every week, but do you think he's ever going to, or being that winger outside type?
He probably at any other club would get a good run through the guts, but at Carlton he's probably destined to play the wing for most of his career.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think there's Akers.
Akers had a big game, I reckon.
I don't know. Yeah, okay. Akers had a fairly good game.
Yeah.
What I do like about Ollie Hollands is he like runs. His running stats are huge. I mean, they
talks about
had Sam Walsh come back into the side like what 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
And I reckon it's the same week in my classic team. I traded Hollands out to Sam Walsh.
Yeah.
And you think Holland's running like 15, 16 kilometres a game, playing on the wing. Sam Walsh, yes, he does play through the middle, but he also does see the wing sometimes and runs about 15, 16 kilometres a game. I was like, a little bit like for like. I don't know how much run and carry and how much running Carlton really need in their team and whether Holland's scoring would take a dip, but if anything, it's gone up.
Yeah. No,
he's had 2 good back-to-back weeks.
Maybe it's just taking some pressure off. That can happen as well when a player like Walsh comes in.
He's just ultra fit. I feel like with most rookies, we see them have like a good first 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Then they sort of like the knocks and everything starts getting to him. But
he's not tiring.
Hollands is ultra fit. Like he's running 16k a game. I don't know if we will see a dip in his scoring. It might even just keep going up. He'll keep finding more confidence. So.
Hopefully, yeah, because I've still got him in Classic and he's had him in field this week.
That's a good snack.
Yeah.
There's a week everyone traded him out. Yeah, like most people traded him out. I feel like his scoring just went up in another gear.
Yeah, no, it's been good. I've been a fan, so hopefully it can continue. Same type of player, outside wingers. Nathan O'Driscoll, 86 points. That was just his best return of the year. I think this will be like his output on the regular when he becomes a bit more senior, a bit more experienced.
If he has job security, you'd lock him in to a side. But it's just keeps him and Erasmus just can't get a good crack.
Injuries don't help him as well. Like he's been pretty injury prone too.
If Freo had a fairly good win on the weekend, but if say their season does get written off a little bit because they've lost a few games now, if they lose a couple more, maybe in the back half of the year, we'll see. See these guys all get like consistent crack. They might play the kids a little bit more.
Yeah, well, we'll speak about Erasmus now as well. Like he had 85 points and just such a highly touted junior. It's good to see him getting a game as well. He had 8 CBA, so spent a bit more time on the inside as well as the outside football he was playing too. I'm confident in his future. I think he's going to be a gun, but just needs to kind of find a spot. Maybe once Jaeger and Mira moves on type thing, he can move in there.
It's like a first, second, third year play. You sort of just want like a good cracker, like 10 games in a row, just cracking it.
Yeah.
Is
he a second year player or third?
I reckon he's the third year player. Okay. So I just don't feel like he's had like a really good crack. Like it's something that the Gold Coast kids get a good crack at, is they get like to play like 20 games a year.
Yeah.
But these Freo guys are getting like 4, 6, 10 games a year. Just give him a good crack.
Yeah. I reckon if he gets a run, he's got some serious potential there. Jamie Elliott, another one we won't talk about heaps, but 85 points. Didn't see the game, but just tipping the cap. 1 goal, 5 tackles, doing those pressure jobs up forward. It's a low-scoring, contested game, it seemed, as well, so it probably suited him for a few tackles in that forward line. I'm not going to dwell on that one too much. Matthew Flynn had 85 points. 128 hit-outs, but English won 40 and just absolutely dominated the game pretty much in every aspect.
English have like 12 centimetres on Matt Flynn's.
Yeah, probably. Is Flynn in trouble with Bruce only 3? I think he'd be 2 weeks away on the injury list this week.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think Bruce would come back in. They were talking on the coverage about how good Flynn was playing.
Yeah.
And how it was good to see him back on the side after he's been out for a while or whatever. How it's good to see him like get another crack because he obviously had that breakout, I think it was 2 years ago maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think Bruce is definitely favoured number one. He's just so strong and
when he's fit,
bodied and scary.
Yeah, he could do a bit more than probably Flynn's offering at the moment. But it's been a good run fantasy wise, just actual footy wise. I'm not sure if GWS are loving it. That's all. Cam Zerha, he's the next one I want to talk about. Just such an almost player. Had 73 points on the weekend and it was actually his lowest CBA rate for the year, but looked probably more dangerous going forward. He just couldn't convert because he kicked 3 behinds. What do you reckon with Cam Zerha? Do you reckon he's ever going to be a reliable fantasy scorer?
It's just annoying. You got him down for 73 points. He scored 83.
83, sorry.
Yeah, had 20 touches.
Yeah.
Which is handy, but he can be so annoying. Like just some weeks looks like he's going to be in like Brownlow contention form and then other weeks comes out and has a stinker.
Yeah.
83 is not exactly a stinker.
Yeah.
But he definitely played up forward a lot more this week rather than in the midfield. I like him in the midfield.
Yeah, he should have turned up on the weekend.
It's just they have so many young midfield kids at North at the moment. It's like, who are they going to go with?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Phillips, barely getting a crack.
Cunnington's done
I mean, yeah.
Well, actually, last time we thought Cunnington was done, he came back and played right the following week. So I don't know what's happening there. We'll talk about him a bit later on. Jeremy Finlayson, 83 points. He's a really important player for Port Adelaide. And I just don't see Lycett coming back into the side at this rate. I think he might have got injured last week because he had 38 points in the sample last week and then didn't play this week. So I think he might be injured again. So I think Jeremy Finlayson, he's basically playing forward, then goes in the ruck, then he'll plug a hole in defence when, we need to stem and play and stuff.
But in terms of like their flag pursuit, he's probably one of their most important players.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because, I mean, if Dixon goes down, Finlayson's now their number 1 forward.
Yeah.
If Lycett goes down, then Finlayson's now their number 1/number 2 ruck.
Yeah, or even if Teakle, you could even see a world where Teakle gets dropped and Finlayson just goes back into
They did that for a little bit last year. Exactly. Finlayson was ranked one of the best ruckmen in the league.
Yeah,
so, he's just so strong.
Yeah.
His footy IQ is unreal as well, just because he plays as a bit of a swingman. So, he just knows, he just kicks important goals and he's there in important moments. He's done it a couple of times. He did it in the Sydney game, was there in important moments. Yeah. He was there on the weekend. I think he kicked one of the last goals of the game to put him in front.
I know there was compassionate circumstances to get him to Port Adelaide, but to get him for the draft pick we did. It's been absolutely
crazy. Yeah, even the GWS for a while there, he was a very important player.
He had that one big season. Yeah. Riley Bonner, keeping on the Port theme. 83 points. He's taking up the wing role in Dersmar's absence. I think lock him in for that period that Dersmar's out. He's always been an almost type of fantasy scorer. Averaged close to 80 last year, and he was playing for most of the season. It was just the last 4 or 5 rounds he just came out of the side. So, I think Bonner, given that he's listed as a defender, could be a handy option if he's on your waiver Paul? What do you
I was
think?
going to say 83 points. I was at the game, so I mean, I was watching the game, but I just feel like he was on 50 odd at half time as well. Mm-hmm. Just had a quiet second half. Just looked up 28 points in the second half.
Yeah.
But he was in the first half. He was unreal. He would have been one of my best on grounds. He was everywhere, real Lockie Whitfield type, just piggish, kicking it to someone and then following up the kick to get the handball off. Yeah, just amazing
Linking
tank. He gets slammed for his kicking at times, but I feel like he's also very good at kicking at times. Sometimes he'll burn a very important time, and that's probably why Port fans just hate him.
But then
he'll
pull off like a freaky low percentage
off this freaky halfback, just pick someone out and do the switch. You're like, how has he picked that out? I don't know. I think he's such an almost player. Like, he's almost like Lockie Whitfield, but he's almost just good enough to play Sandford.
I think just over they'll give him a run over the next few weeks. So he's just
best is so far away from his worst. So that's probably the right type.
I think I mention Aaron Norton every week. Probably should make him too good for the podcast, but he just never hits that ceiling. 79 points, kicked 3 goals. He's just one of the most consistent key forwards to get that 70 each week. So definitely one to consider. Speaking of 2G4P, Jack Saligo, I think I'm just going to make him too good for the podcast because he just keeps putting up decent scores in his new role, which is less outside and more inside forward. We'll talk about him every week if we don't make him too good for the podcast. So
he's in his second year, and
given
guys like Sloan and that filter out. Then he's speaking of Crows players, though. I mean, I didn't do much research in this, but do you see Matt Crouch?
He came on as a sub. Yeah,
in the last quarter, what do you have? Was it 7 touches in the last quarter? It's 23 points.
Yeah.
But I definitely noticed he was everywhere. I just noticed him in the contest everywhere. I was like, this guy needs a full-time gig next week.
Do you reckon he'll get it?
Hopefully.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Crouch is just someone they don't want to play.
He looked good. He looked, and Crows, the game was in the balance, and he was winning clearances and stuff. I was like, how is he not getting a crack?
Yeah.
How is he not on the team?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's one to watch. I feel like he's on. No one's got him in their team.
Yeah, I've still got him in my keeper league team. He's on my bench.
He's in a lot of waivers at the moment. I mean, he only played half a game as well, so he's not going to be on everyone's radar. He scored 40 from a half a footy. Yeah. 12 touches. So that 40 is not going to be when everyone just clicks on the waiver and they go to the top averaging players. That 40 is going to be right down the bottom. So if you want to have a sneaky look through your waiver this week for Matt Crouch, if he gets a full game, I mean, everyone's saying midfielders are pretty thin this year, primo midfielders.
I just think that job, he's worth, if you've got a deep league, definitely worth picking him up. But I just don't know if his job security is ever going to be there again. That's
just a sneaky. It's that time of the year where we get to talk about him. So.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's probably about time they brought him in.
Might be next week that he gets a good feature on the podcast.
Zach Guthrie, again, we're talking about almost players. He's having that almost kind of year. 78 again. He's just not the worst player to have on the field. He's just not the best. I think the spread of points at Geelong and the many different types of players they can do to do similar roles, it just hurts him. Don't you think?
Sometimes I mean, Stewart spent those couple of weeks out of the side, and I thought Guthrie's scoring would have gone through the roof, but it didn't really. Yeah. But some weeks you notice Stewart play more lockdown or deeper, and Guthrie will go more up the field. Or when they had DeConing, he'll play lockdown, and it's they sort of what one does, the other does. So Guthrie's he isn't locked into just being an intercept marker. He isn't locked into being a rebound defender. Sometimes he does play a little bit lockdowny or a little bit deeper in defence. Yeah. He's such an almost almost Tom Stewart. He's like Tom Stewart from Wish, but
well, don't they call you Sam Draper from Wish?
Yeah, I mean, probably a little bit grim. Maybe he's Tom Stewart from Kmart or something like that.
Kmart's
a little bit better than Wish.
Yeah, I like Kmart's quality. Toby Bedford, 77 points. He actually had 26% of the CBAs for GWS. Dossie flagged this in the preseason that he could see him moving to the midfield, and I was kind of
pretty rare considering GWS's midfield, but I mean they did bring him in they must have brought him in for a reason.
Well, I just thought it was Bobby Hill going, just kind of replace that small forward role. But look, credit to Dossie, he was on the money. They started to use him in a few CBAs, so keep your eye on that one. Given he's listed as a forward, it is a deep midfield. I just don't know.
Very deep. Tom Green and Cornelio are slaying at the moment as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kelly as well. Kelly's having he's one of his better years, I'd say.
Could Bedford could get you that kind of 70 here and there, I think. So probably worth a late kind of waiver pickup if you've got a spot for him. But I wouldn't be going too crazy. Jai Caldwell, 77 points. He's just another almost players again. Every time I field him, he stinks. But then every time I bench him, he'll give me a 70.
He's the sort of player you want to have on the bench with the emergency on.
Yeah, we don't play. Kay's taken over his commission this year and he's gone full lockout. It sucks.
That sucks. That's a big time suck.
Yeah.
But he's one of those players where, like, once every couple of weeks he does ton up, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And then you're like, that's the week you drop him from your team or whatever. And you're like, oh, if only I had him on my side.
Yeah, that's happened.
You just can't pick the week. Like,
story of my life.
So they're great to have the emergency on sometimes, and then you can loophole them in.
Yeah.
But I mean, Caldwell being a first round draft pick is also like, he's pretty overs. Like, he gets a lot more attention than probably what he's worth. Like, there's some better, unique players out there.
Yeah, last week was saying he'll probably, like, Dossie and I were both probably in agreement that he's never actually going to be that live up to that potential.
Not at Essendon, I don't think, with the midfield they've got. Like, unless Merritt leaves and,
and Shield probably goes out the side.
They've just got too strong. And even like Archie Perkins and everyone else they've got that can play midfielder.
We'll talk about what's happened to Will Setterfield in a sec, but that's another kind of factor there. Jack Lukosius had 76 points. He was everywhere this week. Started forward, but ended up down back when the game was in the balance as well. Even took a couple kick-ins late as well. Just another roller coaster player. I feel like we chat about him every week, so I won't talk about him too much.
He just has those off weeks. If he didn't have the one every 5 weeks where he scores like a 30, you'd be too good for the podcast. Like, he'd be primo. But he's starting to get that consistency to his game, because I think last year it was like twice every 4 weeks was the 30.
Yeah.
Now it's just filtering out to like once every 4 weeks is 30. Exactly. So he'll be more consistent. He's getting probably had about 50 plus AFL games now under his belt. So
yeah, definitely. Alex Chincotta, 75 points. Just continuing on that halfback line. Newman copped a week. I think. I don't know if they've contested it or not.
Don't know. The tribunal news is coming through now. I got a few messages about it, but
Yeah, so just wait and see what happens there. But I think he could be in line for maybe an 80 or so this week.
He looked good.
Continues.
He looked good on Friday as well. He had a shot, got up forward, almost kicked a goal.
Yeah.
Everyone was getting around him. No, he looks very solid.
Probably should have played him before Cowan, really, in hindsight. But
I mean, he's just been picked up on the list, so maybe they just wanted to get him into the system
maybe
a little bit more.
Or whatever. Yeah. Lloyd Meek had 75 points. So he's just one I reckon you should just watch for Reeves' injury. There's a chance that they might rest Reeves or something like that, given that Meek had a rest last week or went to the VFL last week. They might just give him a week off, and if that happens, Meek might pop this week, so he might be just a good streaming option if he's on your side. I want to talk about Will Setterfield. Now, 70 points, didn't have a single centre bounce attendance, so you're at the game as well. You would have noticed he was out on the wing a lot. Where does he go from here? Can he get back to what he was doing? Because Hobbs has come into the side. Stringer has been taking ball midfield.
He's in my classic side now, and he's getting traded this week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not going to be his biggest fan.
Yeah. For people like me that have got him, drafted him with their first round draft pick in the redraft. And
you know what would be a handy one is if you don't have him, is you could look for a little trade here, because he'd probably be going a bit cheaper than what he could put out. I feel like 70 is still a bit under what he can do.
Yeah. Like if someone like Shield comes out, or if Hobbs goes back to the VFL, I don't see that happening, but or if they just stop
You're just
rolling.
praying for an injury, really, and then he shoots back up to being 100 averaging mid.
Or just stop Jake Stringer playing through there.
But Jake Stringer is just so dangerous.
Yeah.
They just need that explosiveness.
I think Jake Stringer had the first two.
I feel like we've seen this Will Setterfield before. We've seen it at Carlton last year. That wing roll.
Yeah.
And it's probably like that 60 to 70, maybe an 80 every now and then.
Yeah.
But if that midfield mix does change and we see an injury, which is pretty likely with someone like Jake Stringer.
Yeah, true.
He's very handy to have on the bench. So if he's going cheap in your draft league, if he's going real cheap, and we're saying midfielders are pretty hard to come by and they're pretty thin, pretty handy to have a Will Setterfield on the bench.
Yeah, so I've got to keep playing him on my field, unfortunately.
I might put a few trade requests out for Will Setterfield this week in some of my leagues.
Not a bad idea.
See how cheap I can get him.
We'll move on to the last player in this segment, Blake Drury, just 55 points on debut. He was just good without starring.
Good first quarter.
Yeah, definitely.
He had like 7 touches in the first 10 minutes of the game.
Went missing.
Looked like he was going to go wild, but did go missing after that. I mean, the game was still a little bit competitive in the first quarter, and I think he would have broke it open. So
yeah. He'll hold for another week, so
he's been dishing up some good VFL scores too. So he's got some fantasy potential.
That's good to know. All right, just a few talking points that were sent in by members that they just wanted us to address this week. First one is just Adam Treloar's injury. So he's got a hamstring.
They reckon it's low grade though. I don't reckon but it is Treloar. He's got a massive history.
I was going to say who replaces him gets a bump. Do you think Baslenka just goes back in the...
Yeah, I think they've got so many midfielders that they just probably move a bit of a rotation. They don't have Lockie Hunter anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's a hard one, but
yeah,
I'd keep an eye out for the ones I flagged was like maybe it's rare, but like Caleb Daniel or Bailey Dale might get a shift up because they're obviously playing JJ down back now as well.
Yeah, true.
With Ed Richards.
Yeah.
Or the other one is keeping on is like Riley West.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He played. I think I looked at his VFL score. I think it was only in the 70s on the weekend.
But if he gets a gig, like I don't know, it'd only be for like 1 or 2 weeks. I feel like they've got so many midfielders. It's not going to be enough to warrant
Yeah, selection. Yeah. Tim Membry, he's always been a reliable scorer as a key forward, that 70, kind of 75 average. Do you think he'll get back to it? And do you think just the slow start's what is holding him back?
Yeah, I mean, Max King coming back in the side, potential. I'm pretty sure he'll come back in this week should help because he's been taking the key defender. They had Ben Mackay.
Yeah.
And even Griffin Logue taking a few grabs. So
yeah,
it was pretty hard gig for Membry on the weekend. It was a low scoring game. St Kilda only kicked 8 goals. I'm pretty sure Membry went goalless as well, whereas normally he's pretty good for 1 to 2 goals.
Yeah.
So that would boost his scoring a little bit. But yeah, just Max King coming back will take a bit of pressure off him. And let him free up to maybe the second defender from another side. So
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I think he's still you could probably potentially pick up cheap as chips if you need like that last forward to average you like a 70, 75. He could do it. So yeah, one to think about. Jack Crisp, people are asking, is he a back to the podcast candidate? Averaging 78 with absolutely no ceiling. It's just either like 82, 84, 75, that type of scores each week.
It's that like same as a Jai Caldwell, because Jai Caldwell was a first round draft pick. Everyone's sort of like, people that have Jai Caldwell in the team sort of like overhype what his maybe is. And because Jack Crisp has averaged like 100 plus in the past, people are going to be pretty wary to like let him go. Like, I'm not going to trade that guy. Same with like PU still holding on to Matt Crouch. If that was anyone else that wasn't a premium A grader in the past, you would have ditched him weeks ago.
Yeah.
But the people are going to be hanging on to Jack Crisp being like, oh, he might bounce back. So it's going to be pretty hard to like take him off someone. Yeah. He's not going to be on any waivers at the moment.
I wouldn't even want him though, to be honest. Like looking at Dacos, like Dacos plays the role that he should have played. Like, Crisp was always a better scorer on the halfback than he was in the midfield. Like, every time he go in the midfield,
he was even like the stats, he was like 5 to 10 points better.
Yeah. And now that defense, like halfback defensive role,
there's another name that's just taken that role, was John Noble.
Yeah, exactly.
Playing that, probably one of the better ones in the league at the moment, playing that rebound role.
Yeah. So like, I just don't see him going back to a role that gets him into fantasy contention.
31 years old or something.
Yeah. Is he really, Jack Crisp?
Yeah, he's like, I reckon he's
feels like only yesterday he was traded from Brisbane, but yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah.
Do you really want to be picking up a 31-year-old whose scoring's on the decline?
Yeah, I think he's done somehow. Josh Gallo wanted to know Jade Gresham, his injury. How does his injury impact players like Billings? Because I think Billings played VFL on the weekend.
They reckon, again, I heard Ross Lyons speaking, he reckons Gresh will play this week.
Okay, so yeah. Does Billings come back in though, this pretty soon?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have King and Billings come back in. It's going to be hard to see who misses out.
I think Mason Wood might be affected on that wing.
Yeah, Wood could be affected by Billings, but I think Gresh was just like a leg injury.
Yeah, I saw him just have heaps of ice on his legs. So
it might have
sure
been like a big corky or something like that. But he got subbed out. But then Ross said after the game, like, because Rowan Marshall hurt himself.
Yeah, he was fine too, apparently.
Yeah, he said like, we were up by... They're playing North Melbourne.
Yeah,
they're
we
up
don't
by
need
a
to
fair
risk
bit.
him. Yeah.
Like, why are you going to risk Gresh and Rowan Marshall were two pretty important players to Ross Lyons. So,
yeah.
I mean, Billings coming back could affect Mason Wood, but I mean, who has Mason Wood?
Yeah.
A
lot of keep league teams do. But
I mean...
Yeah. Anyway.
If you got Mason Wood, you're happy with what he's doing anyway. You'd be very, very happy with what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't like a first round pick.
Yeah, Kays took him. I took Satterfield, he took Mason Wood, and we've both been pretty happy. I've been pretty happy until now.
But like, you're not mad that Setterfield's scoring's dropped off because you've got more than what you expected out of him.
Yeah,
so I feel
definitely.
like if Billings comes back and it knocks a few off Wood, you're like, it's annoying.
Yeah, but it's bound to happen.
But it's not burning me inside while I'm trying to sleep. Like,
it might be burning Kays not his team at the moment. He doesn't even have a captain option, but his team's just aging a bit, I think. Yes or no answer to this one. Will Cam Rayner ever make it as a fantasy scorer?
No.
Yeah, I don't think
I'm
so
not
either.
a big fan. No, I mean,
good player.
I'm not going to say I'm not a big fan of players, but I mean, Cam Rayner, not a big fantasy fan. I never thought he'd crack it.
Can't do it. I thought the only way would be if he gets the gig in the midfield, and it's just not going to happen. I can't see it.
Especially with Dunkley.
Yeah, exactly. and Ashcroft too. Marcus Windhager, what are your thoughts on him going forward?
He got dropped.
Yeah.
Such a weird dropping.
Definitely hang on going forward though, yeah?
Yeah, Ross loves him, but it was weird that he got dropped. I just thought he hadn't had a good crack. He just got back from injury.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be weird because if Billings comes back in the side, Max King's come back in the side, you're going to have to drop 2 more players. And it's like all these young guys, like if Billings comes back, if Ryan Burns could be the one that gets dropped and he's having like a breakout year.
Yeah.
This is a chance for Windhager to have a breakout year and they sort of dropped him. So it's like, do you reckon Ross is in that hard and difficult spot where he's like, originally when he came to the club, he was like, I want to play the kids and get the team up to scratch and get them good for 3 or 4 years.
Now he wants to make finals.
They won the first 6 games or whatever, or the first 5 games. I'm like, now I need to actually have a crack at making the top 8.
Yeah, if you've got expectations from the members now and that. So
he comes out and says, I love Windhager, he's going to be the future, but then he's in this difficult spot where he's like, I've got to make top 8 and I'm going to have to play the more experienced guys.
Like someone like Seb Ross would be like, for me, I thought he was completely done and now he was right back in the CBA mix on the weekend.
Very difficult mix because like it's a short-term win but a long-term loss. Like, so if they don't play Windhager for the rest of the year or he's in and out of the side, it's going to hurt his development. Yeah. And then say next year and the year after, what happens there? So
yeah, interesting one. I have faith. He's going to be a good player. Just might have to be patient with him under this system. That's all. Do you think Ben Cunnington is finished?
Very close to being finished. Yeah. I wouldn't write him off completely, but just from the statement that Ross Lyon made by dropping Aaron Hall after having a pretty good game by Aaron Hall standards.
Yeah.
And dropping Kane Turner after I thought Kane Turner's had one of his better years at the club.
I think you said Ross Lyon.
Sorry,
Clarko.
Thinking of ex-coaches that have come back to clubs and stuff.
Good, yeah, no, easy.
Clarko made the big statement by dropping those 2. I thought Turner's had like one of his better years.
Yeah.
But, just saying it's time we're playing the kids. It's time to do some development.
Do you reckon Will Phillips come straight back in this week? Or how long's Powell out for?
I don't know. I haven't seen the Power diagnosis. I have to look that one up, but yeah.
What's this week? I don't know. I don't know if it's Will Phillips' time, but I think Ben Cunnington.
It's a hard one because the fans love him so much. He's such like a good marketing thing for the club.
He scored 97 last week as well. So I was like, fantasy friendly team, St Kilda, regardless of whether they win or lose. Surely Cunnington's good for at least a 70 this week. I think he scored 17 or something like that.
Got subbed out.
Yeah, I know, but like he was doing nothing up until then as well. What did he score?
22.
Jesus.
From, just over half a game.
Yeah.
Which means probably would have been on track for maybe like a 40 score. Yeah, it's still pretty gross.
No, it's no good.
Very gross.
And Patrick Dangerfield did a hamstring. Do you think Tanner Bruin could come in and...
He looked unreal in the last quarter.
Yeah.
Did he kick the goal or did he set up the goal that sort of like secured them the game?
I think he might have kicked it, yeah. Can't remember.
But no, he was unreal in the last quarter. I'm just trying to look up his last quarter stats because that was sort of when Dangerfield went out. Yeah, 39 in the last quarter.
Yeah.
With no Dangerfield in there. So he definitely
get on board Tanner
on the
Bruin.
radar. He had a good start of the season. It was the first 2 games he went
well,
good.
A lot of people didn't expect him to play and then he was in there first up and actually scored okay. I think he had a big first half, and then went missing. But yeah.
He's got potential. He's one for the future for sure. Once Dangerfield's wrapped up and once Mitch Junction wrapped up, Jack Bowes and Tanner Bruin will go nuts surely. But
yeah, after the next few weeks, he'll probably see a bump. So definitely one to consider if you've got him. Maybe bring him onto the field. All right, before we move on to listener questions, just want to thank a few members. If you like the podcast and want it to continue going forward, please sign up as a member and show your support and keep things ticking along. If you do sign up, we'll reward you with our bonus stats on our website. Those include CBA numbers, kick-in numbers, the State League fantasy scores, and the breakout tracker so you can compare players to the best in the competition at the same point in their careers. Each week we read out 10 gold members, so I'll do it this week. I haven't done it for a while. Been making the guest to do it. So thank you, Chris H, Harry Batt, Nick Kirchner, Michael Chappell, Pete Brown, Matt Risley, Oliver Mackey, Doug Wicking, Scott Berry, and Drew Peacock. Thank you. And also, if you don't sign up as a member, that's all good. Just if you could help us out by following us on a YouTube channel or just retweeting or following or liking or whatever, all that sort of stuff helps. So if you want to show your support, there's other ways to do so. If you do want to sign up as a financial member, there's a link in the description below. All right, we'll wrap this up quickly. We'll just do the listener questions and we're done. Checkers. So this one comes from Dale Travers. Being a St Kilda supporter, this is fitting for you. Is Bartel ever going to be best 22?
It's a tough call, but I think it probably might be his last year on the list.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I can see that happening.
If he's not if he's not playing consistent footy by the end of the year, I think that's probably him done at Saints.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he's a bad midfielder either. Like he could get a gig in another club or like a redraft or whatever. But
yeah.
It's a tough one. They've got so many young kids in the midfield, and I don't think he's in the top 5 or top 6.
Yeah,
especially like Machito Owens playing a fair bit of forward, and then
he playing a ruck on the weekend.
Yeah, he's been rotating on the ball.
Yeah.
He's just gone down the pecking order a little bit too much. So
yeah, it's going to be hard for him. Tom Seagram, Pedlar, is he going to be a career half forward, or will he move inside eventually?
I think he'll go inside. He's shown that in the Sandful in his early days. He's so good at like pressure. That's probably why he's playing mostly forward mode. His pressure forward's unreal. His tackling.
Yeah. I feel like he started like his junior midfielder, Then when he came to Sandford, like Crows, he was forward in Sandford. Then he moved into the midfield eventually. I feel like it's just following the same direct trajectory, just at AFL level. Like,
he played bit of forward time in the regular season. And in the finals last year, he played in the midfield.
Yeah.
And he's not a massive like accumulator, but he's just like a crazy like.
He doesn't look like the biggest tank operator.
Just
either,
contested beast. He's just so strong. Like it reminds me a bit of like Power Pepper as well in that sense of like can play midfield when needed. Can do a bit of contested work, but is also so handy up forward in terms of pressure forwardness that they sort of have to use him there.
Could see him developing into one of those types. Yeah. Josh Gallo, second question for the night. Wants to know your thoughts on Dylan Stevens. Him being dropped isn't a great thing in his opinion, but seems to be able to run a lot and will be a decent wingman. I know he had a huge score in the VFL this week as well. Do you think he's going to be fantasy relevant, and is he worth hanging on to?
Yeah, it's difficult because even his draft year, his numbers weren't massive.
Yeah.
And his numbers have never been crazily massive. Like he doesn't have that massive like 140 plus ceiling. Like we saw Goulden just score 160 or was it what 140 without a single CBA.
Yeah.
I just don't know if Dill Stevens without CBAs can do massive numbers.
And
like
I don't
that.
think he's going to get them. Like he's just he's going to be an outside type.
The one thing I'm just banking on Dill Stevens is like coming home to the Crows for a trade at some point.
And well, they could use him like on the outside.
He'd suit perfectly.
You'd prefer him than Shoal type thing.
Shoal or Malira or Brodie Smith. Like there's going to be room for some like halfback wingers in the next few years there.
Yeah.
I feel like they'll go after him pretty hard in the trade period as well. And then, Geordie Dawson type role where he was a halfback flanker and now he's playing midfield.
Yeah.
There's plenty of potential there. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot to hold out for.
You're going to be waiting a while, I think. Yeah. Nathan Burns wants to know, Ollie Wines, he says he thinks he's averaging 73. He's not too good for the podcast at the moment. Being a Brownlow medalist, we don't really chat about him. But yeah, is he going to bounce back or is he forever going to be shit from now on? I think there's a few factors here. What are your thoughts?
I mean, Porter just rotating so much at the moment because that's just the game style. Like sometimes when Francis gets a gig for the clearance work, sometimes we're putting Boak in the midfield, sometimes Willem Drew's playing the contested work. Like he keeps bobbing up every now and then. I just don't think there's a consistent role for anyone at Port Adelaide. Like Horn Francis scoring has been so roller coaster. We saw Boak ton up last week and then have a 70 this week.
Did you just refer to Port Adelaide as we?
I'm talking like for you, in terms of you.
Oh, okay. I have seen you in a Port Adelaide tracksuit a few times.
I went Port Adelaide tracksuit. No. But yeah, I just think the consistent role that Wines had. Rosie's probably the only one that's played any consistent role.
Yeah.
And that's because of just how he is. He's probably the most unique midfielder in there. He's not a big body and he's got the silk and like run.
I think Port don't want to play their senior bodies in the midfield. It's all about developing these kind of four youngsters, really. But you do see it from time to time when shit hits the fan, they go back to these types like your Boaks and your Wines and stuff like that.
Boak went in. I think Wines. I think the back half of the year you'll see Wines actually go big. So I think he's one to radar for.
Had a knee issue all preseason as well, so he's probably super unfit as
picking
well.
up on the trade radar there would be like he'd probably be undervalued right now as well. You'd probably get him cheaper than what he's worth.
Absolutely.
If he's only averaging 73, you might be able to prime away from someone. And I feel like if Port, the way their fixturing's lined up.
Yeah,
they've got a few pretty easy run in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So, Wines' scoring might continue to be pretty average, but then when they do play the harder teams in the back half of the year and they're really just pushing to secure finals, I feel like Wines' going to have a big second half. So
man, not a bad thought. Matthew with enough numbers to make a barcode after it. For draft, would you go Witherden or Duggan or Jones off the waivers? I'm assuming that's Chase Jones.
Chase Jones, Jermaine Jones.
Oh, yeah, it could be Jermaine Jones. I like Duggan. I think Duggan's just a consistent 80 type guy.
Witherden's annoying because he's probably the one with the most potential.
Ceiling.
The most ceiling there, but it's just, he's not even like secured in the best 22.
Yeah. It's
gross, but like until Shannon Hearn leaves, he's probably not a secured best 22 player.
Yeah. You're worried about him, going forward, I think. Yeah, I'm probably Duggan. I think he's the most consistent out of that lot.
Especially job security wise.
Yeah. Been offered Lloyd for Ridley. Would you be tempted or is holding Ridley a no-brainer as he's a future keeper? The role change with either Laverty or Brent Thatcher, that is. Yep. And Redmond's emergence this year has frustrated me as an owner. What do you think? Would you trade Lloyd for Ridley at this point in time?
I would.
Been offered you brought. Oh, sorry. Who would you prefer to keep? Ridley?
If I had Ridley and someone offered me Lloyd, I think I'd go yes on it.
Yeah, I feel
like Lloyd's still got another 2 to 3 years of good scoring in him.
He doesn't do anything but score like that,
which is enough for a keeper league to ride out. Like if you're winning a flag for 2 to 3 years, that's pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I'd take Lloyd. Yeah,
and I feel like Ridley's 2 to 3 years away from really securing his spot. And this is only on potential as well. Yeah. Like they've got so many. He mentioned himself, like Redmond's emergence.
Yeah,
and
depends on who's fit as well. Like he's the first guy to go to that lockdown role when one of their actual defenders gets injured. So
they could. I did see Ridley play more of like that deeper interceptor, it's like lockdown player. Whereas Redmond's more like the rebounding defender. So I mean, there's so much up in the air. Whereas you're just securing, like you know what you're getting from Jake Lloyd.
Yeah, 100%. Anyways, I think that wraps it up for another week. So checkers, where can our listeners find you?
In the Div 12 races,
dirt.
Marmalade on TikTok or Instagram, or even on Twitter. I guess I got to post a bit more on Twitter. I've been so busy lately. I was doing some fantasy tweets, but just
doesn't happen naturally, mate. Doesn't matter. You know,
just got busy with Div 12 races.
Yeah,
Div 12 much content going on at the moment.
As soon as Gather Round hit, you went into overdrive with work and things, and
this hasn't really stopped. And then I'm hoping it cleans up a little bit soon. But
anyways, you can get around our stuff on the socials at Keep League Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. Make sure you help out our sponsors, Game Day Squad, as well, by jumping on there and opening a few packs there too. Whatever you do with them helps grow the podcast here too. And if you want to support the podcast further, please jump on as a member. Anyways, that's it for another week, and we'll talk to the listeners soon.
Cheers.
See you later. Thanks, people watching on the stream. Take it easy.